Namaste and welcome to Hindu Lounge. This is Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindu Pact. Hindu Pact is Hindu Policy Research and Advocacy Collective. It's an initiative of World Hindu Council of America, VHPA. And my name is Ajay Shah. I am the president of VHPA, and I am so glad today that we have a new co-host, and we have Sudha Jagannathan who is with us today. And she is an amazing Hindu advocate, activist in America. She's been doing a great job all over the country, and she's been traveling internationally. So we got a lot to learn from her. But Sudha, I cannot thank you enough, and I welcome you to the show. I am so glad that you are able to do this. So welcome to Hindu Lounge, and instead of me introducing you, I would like you to say a few words about yourself and how you became a Hindu advocate, how you started working in the advocacy movement, and what you've been up to. And while you're there, maybe give us a little bit of insight into your world travels.
Namaste and thank you so much. And Shubham Holi, right? Today is Holi.
He's
So,
holy.
yeah, no, my name is Sudha Jagannathan. And, I was just an average everyday in Indian American, Hindu American. And of course, 2019, several things happened. And then a lot of Hindus kind of came into the fray to counter so much of negativity happening, right? So that's how I got involved. And then since then, I think I've worked on many campaigns. Uh, particularly California seems to be a big one. But also in varieties of states. In 2019, we saw the CAA flying through what, 7 cities and a county. So I think through the process, I've kind of learned, right, how to stand up. For myself, we live in a free country, a democratic country with constitutional rights afforded to everybody, and it's up to us to use those rights and stand up for uh, for our community, for our faith, for our identity. So I think part of my travels too, I love to travel, and everywhere I go now, I'm always looking for how are the indigenous represented in these countries. And unfortunately, a lot of indigenous communities have just disappeared off the face of the earth. And when I go and talk to people, there is regret amongst the, let's say, the colonized, right? I mean, the colonizers. There is regret that they did some terrible things, but it's too late to talk about that. So the point is that I still fight for my family, my friends, and my community, so we do not become extinct. There is a danger of us becoming extinct, our culture, our traditions co-opted, and then whitewashed. And at some point, we don't want to end up in a history book saying there used to be a population called Hindu.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, very few last. Yeah.
Look, this has already happened, right? I mean, there were a lot of parts that were Hindu. At one time, Hindu Dharma was spread all over the world, not just in Asia. People have this misunderstanding that we were only in the Indian subcontinent, as it's called today. But we were spread much farther, than just just the Indian subcontinent. In fact, if you look at the exhibit that we recently put together called Ramayana Around the World, you'll see that in far-flung areas where you would not even expect in Ramayana or Hindu Dharma to be prevalent, there are people who have been celebrating Ramayana for hundreds of years. And today, again, we should show our title slide that we didn't show. But if you look at our title slide for today, you will see that we are going to talk about appropriation of Hindu festivals, and specifically we are going to talk about appropriation of Holi, right? And by the way, I welcome all the people who are joined, who are listening. There are quite a few people. We This was an unannounced program, and I still see a lot of people who are just kind of dialing in, joining. So welcome everyone. um, Let me the reason I picked this topic, can Sudha, you and I picked this topic, is because today is Holi, and Holi is a significant festival for us. Holi is a festival that has been celebrated in India for thousands of years. It is something that signifies the victory of good over evil. There is also a story about, so there's a Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad story that most people listening to this show know about. There's also a story about Radha Krishna, right?
Mhm.
And maybe you want
Yeah.
to elaborate a little bit on that, and then we'll jump into why Holi is being misrepresented, how it has been appropriated, and all that. Take it away.
Yeah, especially the story of Prahlad, it is very, very much relevant right now because universities, particularly California's, announced that Holi should be banned, Holi should be cancelled because Holika burning is the burning of a Bahujan. And you have to scratch your head. What's going on? This is a story of a king, Hiranyakashipu, his son Prahalad, and Hiranyakashipu's sister Holika. And how can Holika be Bahujan and his her brother is not Bahujan? Huh? So what I'm saying is that the danger is not only removing the Holi as a Hindu festival, it's narrated in a way that completely distorts the story in order to fit certain agendas of people who want Hindu festivals and all things Hindu to be cancelled, right? So it's very dangerous. So Prahalad's story is really about devotion, bhakti, right? And for bhakti we also have sadhana. And why do we have bhakti and sadhana? Because our philosophy is that our ultimate goal is to merge with the consciousness in the universe. How do you get there? Through bhakti sadhana. Of course, we have a different varieties of ways to get there. But the story of Prahlad is about that focused devotion to Bhagavan, right?
Right.
Despite his father's, all sorts of ways of trying to destroy him, ultimately, Prahlad was the victor, and it's a story of again good over evil. So that's amazing story, but it's relevant today because of how it is misrepresented in a very cruel, nasty way to say this indigenous festival is should be cancelled because somebody says so, right?
Yeah.
You
And
can take on the Radha Krishna
I don't
story.
know
That's also relevant.
I mean, it's it's embodiment of the this devotion that Radha has for Krishna and the divine play between Radha and Krishna, then gopis and Krishna that is being depicted when people are throwing gulal and all the colors at each other. It's just a joyous time. It's a celebration time, and it's kind of sad that people either appropriate it or they weaponize it against Hindus. So both things have happened. Both things are still continuing to happen. So let's dive into it. I was looking up the other day about what is appropriation, because sometimes people say, "Oh, you guys are way too sensitive. You're oversensitive. What do you mean by holy is being appropriated?" And well, let's look at some examples, and then we'll figure it out. So the definition, the pure technical definition of cultural appropriation is when members of one culture adopt the elements of other culture without acknowledging or respecting the original culture. It can be particularly controversial when members of a dominant culture appropriate for minority cultures. Now, let's concentrate on the first part of it. And you can say, well, how does it manifest itself, right? The two ways it manifests itself. One is when people do it for profit, and the other when they do it, they're not really trying to appreciate it, but they're actually trying to, take it away and call it their own and cutting it off from its own roots. So if you
Yes.
look at the examples of, and you know this because you have led many, many movements and you have traveled through Native American lands in South America and Central America. So the Native Americans have faced this, and so have Hindus when it comes to yoga and meditation and these kinds of festivals like Diwali, all of that, right? I mean, you have seen this in other contexts as well.
Yeah, and so let's talk about appropriation versus appreciation. I recently watched a video by this Australian British chef, Gary Mehigan, on National Geographic. So he celebrated the biggest festivals of India. And it's a 1 hour show just on Holi. He just jumps into it. He comes ready for the colors, he participates. He explains the whole festival as to exactly what it is. And he does the same for the Durga Puja in Kolkata. He came to Kerala for the Onam, and he wears a mundu and a shirt. All of that. That is total appreciation because he wants to learn about this and celebrate it as a global citizen. However, appropriation really is taking something away from the native culture, like you said, it brings in an element of contempt, right, for the native culture, and a disregard for the sensibilities of that native population. And that is where the danger is, because that is where they start to remove. See, Holi is a Hindu festival.
Right.
No question about it. So when they start to remove it and say, no, I'm going to celebrate and I'm going to call it Festival of Colors and not make reference to Hindu, to me, I'm going to be very blunt here. It's like making the word Hindu a pariah or an untouchable word. Why would they want to do that, right? They want to do it because they want to say, just like yoga. I went to a yoga class many years ago. At that time, I couldn't speak like how I do now. And this young Caucasian lady who led the class at the end said, yoga is for is belongs to the world. It doesn't belong to India. And looked at me particularly. At that time, I wasn't sharp enough to respond. I did not know what to say. But that's appropriation without acknowledging the roots of our traditions and practices. So Holi is the same thing that's happening today. When somebody says South Asian Holi, a South Asian Holi, really 8 countries in South Asia, many of them, if you practice Holi, you could invite violence on yourself.
Yeah.
Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, a Hindu celebrating Holi, you have to be careful. Even in India, I'm seeing certain parts,
Oh, we
certain
saw that,
areas.
right? There's a recent news item about it. I believe it was at Aligarh Muslim University where some Hindus were trying celebrating Holi and they were attacked in India.
Yes, yes, yeah. So my point is, if you cannot celebrate Holi freely in India, where else do you do that? But
Right.
the good news is that now Holi is celebrated across the world. Just getting prepared for this conversation, I looked up Holi. The Indian embassy celebrated Holi in Egypt, in Israel. It's a new thing in Saudi Arabia, in Dubai. I have to say, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for those communities that allow their residents, to come in and celebrate their festivals and join in. That is appreciation, right?
Right. Right.
Versus appropriation. Yeah.
So let me show you a couple of visuals and have you comment on those. Right. So these are the visuals that I just some newspaper clippings that we kind of came across. Right. I want to see what you have to say about these. So, for example, this is one where why Holi inspired. This is written by a second generation, I believe, youth in America. Why Holi inspired paint throwing parties make me queasy, because this is a person who grew up in Hindu tradition and she's saying that. And why she's saying that? Because she comes across news items like this from UK. Holy shit, that's a lot of color. Or something like this which says Viva Carnival, Holy Festival of Colors, trademarked. And as you can see the trademark sign on the Instagram post also. And there is a Holy Run, which, so these are all festivals. They celebrate the same way it's been done in India by throwing colors. And they call it color festival of colors. They call it Holi, but they delink it from the roots
Yeah.
of the spiritual, religious aspect of Holi is stripped away. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. That is very shocking, especially to see the German. What the last slide you showed was the German, I mean, so bold to appropriate this title, what? Holy Festival of Colors, and trademark it,
And trademark
right?
it. Yeah, yeah,
How,
trademark.
how in the world do they do that, right?
Yeah,
And we have let it happen. The Hindu community, the Hindu diaspora, the Hindus in India, we are not paying attention to it because there's so much out there. It's hard to keep track of everything. But
yeah,
this is really outrageous when Germany, and I just had if I met somebody part of that festival group, I would say, but it was the Germans who um, uh, got rid of 1.5 million Romas,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
just during the Second World War. So, how do you now take, something belonging to a native indigenous tribe like the Hindus and then make it your own and delink it?
yeah,
And so they have a purpose in it, make money and to heck with the Hindu sentiment. I think that is where I'm saying contempt, disdain, and no value for native culture.
That is so telling, because one of the German professors, so when they started celebrating this, I think in 2012 or 13 or something, like 2012 I believe, was the first holy festival of color celebrated. And some of the over the years, I think, the newspapers, every time there's Holi, they go and consult some journalists and some professors and some other people who kind of know or pretend to know about Hindu dharma, and they ask them, well, what do you think about Holi, right? So they, in that process, they contacted one of the professors in Germany at University of Bonn, and the name of the professor was Carmen Brandt. And they, oh, what do you think about Holi and all of that? And Carmen Brand says that, oh, this is kind of nuanced, this is not as straightforward. And well, what is not straightforward? So they say, so Carmen Brown Brand says, hey, since it's so difficult to trace Holi back to any specific origin, being protective of the term holy makes no sense, especially since Holi isn't fixed, static cultural ritual. After all, it has always changed over the time and was celebrated differently depending on the region. And then she goes on and says, oh, I'm getting some echo, but hopefully you're not. So then she goes on and says, elements of celebrating Holi today, like the use of colors, most likely predate the term Holi itself, and that is why branding the contemporary Indian Holi celebrations in this context as original Holi could be problematic. So, you Hindus, you are problematic. You are branding Holi as Hindu. It is not that we are appropriating, it is your fault that you are actually branding this festival as a Hindu festival, because this color and all the celebration and Holika Dahan, all of that predates you Hindus. What do you say to
Yeah,
that?
I know. Yeah. I mean, to get a professor to say such gobbledygook, you know, she doesn't make any sense at all. But she strings words together to support the people who have trademarked it. But the trademark itself is the problem. So I think at some point we should talk about how to address all of this. But it's really reprehensible. It makes me my skin crawl to imagine somebody doing this.
Yeah, actually, with a straight face, somebody can actually say
Yeah,
that. I mean, that is just
yeah,
flabbergasted. I'm flabbergasted that somebody actually said that. So I think that there are, I've seen this pattern, and someday we'll do a show on yoga and we'll do show on Diwali. But I came up with this set of, like step by step appropriation thing. So I think the first thing they do is they rebrand, and when rebrand, it's like Holi becomes now festival of color. The
yeah,
second thing they do, the next step is secularize. So they de-link the faith. So the faith becomes myth, and the festival becomes a secularized, festival, like South Asian color festival of color. There's no holy needed, no Hindu dharma grounding needed, none of that. The third step is uproot. So position it as spring festival of color. Now it has nothing to do with Indian Holi, right? The fourth thing is you steal. And what I mean by steal is you say Festival of Colors is now trademarked. So you cannot use the phrase without violating someone's trademark. And next thing you do is you weaponize it against Hindus. So you make the word Hindu itself toxic. So if you
yeah,
remember, there are certain organizations in US that came up with Holy against Hindutva. So
yeah,
now
yeah.
you're trying to demonize Holi against, you're trying to actually achieve two things. One, you're demonizing Holi itself, and the second thing is you are appropriating what word Hindutva means. Hindutva is essence of Hindu Dharma. But now you're trying to say that now the word itself is in some ways unusable. And the last thing they do is now they appropriate. Well, it was really never a Hindu festival. So I came across this one quote, and it says that in a bid to inculturate, which is a Christian term, to make it localized Christian, the Indian church. This is from a Christian leader in India. Absorbing Holi into Christian festival calendar as the feast of creation, the church in India can impart faith education on a man's ecological education. And then there's a poem by Bulle Shah, who is a Sufi poet. He says that I'll play Holi beginning in the name of Lord, saying Bismillah. Okay, and I will not read the rest of it, but basically he's like, and it ends with the phrase that says, "Only he may play with these colorful dice who has learned to lose himself in Allah." That means if you're Hindu, don't even bother playing Holi.
I
Okay,
know.
so
So
what do you
actually,
say about
in
what I just said?
parts
Yeah,
of the country right now, of course, there's a lot of holy celebration. There are lots of holy celebration going on, and one that we came across was some mehfil Sufi celebration, and the organizers had Hindu names.
yeah,
So people call them out, and they would not budge. So they are keeping, and I think the event already happened this past weekend. So it's our own people that are contributing to this. And the Holy Against Hindutva was also by brown people from
yeah,
India, right?
yeah,
They may be Hindus, they may not be Hindus, but they are now saying, don't celebrate Holi because, one, it is Hindu, and Hindu is oppressor, right? So
yeah,
when you celebrate Holi, you're oppressing women or oppressing depressed people, etc. So they string together a certain description of all of this, which actually then starts to whitewash who we are, right? Which is exactly the kind of thing that happened to the native indigenous people around the globe. So or everything you said, even the Islamic Sufi poem. I think part of the research we did during the Mughal time, they had already appropriated
yeah.
Holi.
Yeah, it was
It
appropriated
was
a long
called,
time ago, right?
yeah, it was called Eid-e-Gulab or something. And I believe Jahangir used to run around in the grounds with his wives playing color. But that was a major appropriation at that time because Hindus were muzzled, really. We couldn't do anything, say anything, nothing.
Yeah,
And yeah. And since then, today, what is happening is the same kind of muzzling and
yeah,
silencing. And I think the fact that we are talking about it, Ajay, I hope it opens the eyes of people, especially the ones who want to claim South Asian, knowing that South Asian countries themselves are muzzling us and not allowing us to celebrate this one. The other thing is about myth. How is this a myth? I saw an article just published 2 days ago that said, oh, the origins of Holi is rooted in the myth and lore. What is the so myth? What is a myth about this Holi and our stories?
yeah,
Prahlad, those are real to us. That's
yeah.
why we celebrate.
Totally real to us.
Radha Krishna, of
Yeah,
course, Radha and Krishna are in our hearts. It's real to us.
yeah,
It's not a myth.
yeah. And so, but let me ask you this, and uh, every time when there's Christmas, I see billboards, and the billboards usually say that there's a don't forget that there's Christ in Christmas, and the Christian church and Christian leaders are generally very upset, saying that people have taken Christ out of Christmas, right? What do you say to those people that hey, look, all festivals are being commoditized, all festivals are being appropriated, we are not singling you out for commercialization, commercial exploitation, and so that's one part of it. And second part of it, where people say, well, look, you know uh, Christmas is now globally celebrated. We are just taking the Hindu festival like Holi and making it global. You guys should be happy. So A,
Yeah.
you should not be unhappy, because look, I mean, same thing is happening to Christmas, and only Christian fundamentalists are opposing it. And B, you know we are actually helping you, we are not appropriating this. What do you say to those people?
Well, see, Christmas being celebrated around the globe is about cultural exchange. And the fact that the word Christ is in Christmas doesn't dilute it, doesn't disassociate the celebration or the birth of Jesus Christ from the faith itself, doesn't. But that's not what's happening to the Hindu festivals. There's a deliberate attempt to remove the Hindu from our festivals. That is terrible appropriation. And I would say, coming from Kerala, I see massive churches with Dvajastambhas, and our big Nelavalaka with the cross on top. Nelavalaka is really the joining of your Jivatma and Paramatma. It shows like this, right? And now you have a cross on top. To me, I'm not saying they shouldn't do it. To me, that's dividing everything. So they do it. They never asked our permission, and they feel like they are also Indians. They need to, use those same symbols. Okay, do it, but do it with respect to the native culture. Do it in for ways to embrace harmony, build harmony. Don't do it to say this is mine, I do it my own way because I have certain other agendas behind it. So Christmas, everybody celebrates. It's a joyous time. Of course, it's become terribly commercialized. But that's something I think the church needs to address, right? But Christmas itself has the word Christ. Nobody thinks it is not Christian, right? Nobody in the world thinks it's not Christian. And it's celebrated around the world by all faiths for the most part as a cultural exchange.
So, you recently you visited a lot of countries in South and Central America. Um, from if you look at it from what they've lost in past 200, 300 years, and then you superimpose it on the Hindu experience, ongoing Hindu experience. Um, what are your what do you
Yeah.
what are your conclusions, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I visited in Argentina. I visited this Iguazu Falls area, and I went and met with the tribals there. They are called the Guarani tribe, and at one time I think Jesuits had tried to make them into Christian, but then the Jesuits didn't last so long there, and the Guarani said, "Hey, we are happy being us. Don't bother us. I don't want to be civilized. I'll go to school, but I don't care about being a rocket scientist or anything. I'm going back to my forest." In the forest, they live their native lives. Right. So, in one sense, they have taken within the spectrum of rights and whatever society is, they have taken back their right to live the way they want to live. Right. And if they pray to the spirits of the trees and nature, nobody is bothering them now. And in fact, Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina allows the Guarani to travel amongst the three countries because that's their range, right? They live their own life. Um, but I also went to Meghalaya. And when I went to Meghalaya, I met with this particular Khasi tribe who are now Pentecostal. But one of the things I did there was they took us into this thing called the sacred forest. It is managed by the Khasis, it belongs to the Khasis, and you can only explore certain parts of it. You cannot go all around. But they took us in there to show us their ancestral worship, uh, you know, system and things, ruins and things that are in the forest. But they said they still do it. Even though they are Pentecostal, every year they do the ancestral worship. I mean, so they became Pentecostal for whatever reason, right? But the fact that they have kept their ancient traditions, it's an amazing thing to see. I just hope that they keep it, right? I hope it doesn't go away, because when it goes away, you understand what a significant loss is. And I'll bring up one more example: Easter Island, right? So this Jared Diamond, a very big author, and some high school kids have to read his book. And he had written a book about how communities become extinct. And his major example was Easter Island. And Easter Island had a group of set of people called Rapa Nui, and they had a Rapa Nui culture. So when I went there are Rapa Nui today, and they said we were almost extinct. That's true. But we recognize the problem. We are now Christian, but we recognize what we have and that we are going to protect it. And the way they are protecting is they have schools that are immersive Rapa Nui language for the children. And they have arts and crafts, and they bring all of their native cultural practices into the Rapa Nui life. So what was once maybe 100 Rapa Nui left, maybe now today is 8,000 or something. I'm just saying, everywhere you go, you're seeing Rapa Nui culture and a pride in who they are, right? And what is it the Hindus have to do? The Hindus who write these nasty articles about myth and write about call us South Asia instead of India, um, we are actually killing ourselves. It is time for us to realize you don't lose anything by standing up with your identity. Take pride in it, promote it, and don't side with the people who really would like to see you go away. Be
Yeah.
completely wiped off of this planet. Don't let that happen.
That's so well put. That's so well put. And I was just going to ask you, how do we turn it around? And one of the things that we did, last couple of years, and something called United Colors of Holi. Over 100 Hindu organizations joined us, mandirs joined us, and the idea was that, look, I mean, Holi has yet another significance that we can think about, and that is, soul is colorless, but it manifests itself in various nationalities, ethnicities, races, and all different colors and all different kinds of people. And that is also a manifestation of, in one way, how the soul manifests itself, and how Hindu dharma brings everyone in the around the world together, regardless of what their country of origin is, regardless of what divides them. So Holi is not just about festival of color in terms of throwing colors at each other and being joyous and celebrating, but even if you introspect, you can see that, there is a place here where you can forget all the external differences that divide people, and it can actually unites us, and that is what really sets us apart from the crowd that wants to have Holi against Hindutva. We are saying we you know we support Hindutva, and the reason we support Hindutva is because Hindutva allows you to forget these external differences, because being Hindu is being manifestation of the same soul in all different bodies. So that is the larger message here, but you have some other thoughts as well, right? How do we turn this around? And you kind of mentioned it in, when we were just chatting about this. What are your thoughts?
So I just want to point out about our festivals, the foundational of our festivals versus anything else. In our festivals, all differences are forgotten.
Right.
It's not even across the different jati varna, if you have to say that. It is also inviting and made welcome to other people of faith, right? Of any race, any ethnicity. Foreigners come to India during this festival time, they are welcomed as one of us. So it has always been the one uniting thing of all the Hindus together, at the same time open to anyone who wants to come and participate, for appreciating it, for learning about what these festivals are, and to understand and celebrate with us. So it's always uniting.
Yeah.
Any festival we take, it's uniting. So the other thing is, yesterday we had Holi in my local temple here in the
Mhm.
US,
Mhm.
and I invited some Mormon friends. They had come to the temple with students, a teacher and students. They had come to the temple with their church leaders to just see the temple and learn about it. So I invited them to join Holi. They all came. They are young families, little kids. They loved the whole festival. They put colors on. They did the parikrama around the fire. They, joined us for dinner, and they were so gracious. They were so happy to be part of this. So education is very important for us through these kind of engagement opportunities. We're not trying to convert anybody. I mean, I want the Mormon to stay as Mormon as long as I'm left to stay as a Hindu, right?
Right.
But inviting them to come and learn about us through how we practice our faith is important, and then educating them what is a Hindu. So they asked me a lot of questions about Hindu. I showed them pictures of my visits to the temples in Tamil Nadu. uh, it's a chance to exchange uh, information about each other. The other thing is advocacy. So what you're doing, and this conversation that we're having, it's part of advocacy, teaching our own people. Let's not minimize ourselves. Let's not think that, oh, Hindu dharma will survive because for 10,000 years we have survived.
Yeah.
Well, it's a different world today. Let me tell you, we are at more risk of losing everything we have and somebody else taking it for lack of our own engagement in protection of our languages, protection of our festivals, protection of standing up and defending our right to be Hindu, right? So advocacy, education, building awareness, and I would say also take on that trademark in Germany. Let's figure out a way to take that on. We should
That
not
cannot
let that
stand.
continue,
Yeah,
right? I'm
that
happy to
cannot
write.
stand.
Yeah, I'm happy to write to the German ambassador to the US and say, hey, what's going on? You need to
Yeah,
speak up for us.
yeah,
The other thing is, the one other thing I say is, no, it's not just us who are suffering from this. All the indigenous tribes that are left on Earth, in Africa, in Latin America, are also facing the same thing. I think there are some global organizations that bring the indigenous together, but I haven't researched into it. I think we need to make it a bigger deal with the indigenous tribes, global indigenous tribes, to stand together for all that is indigenous and native. No knowledge should be appropriated. No pharmaceutical company should come and say, I'm taking it, I distilled this from this particular plant, it belongs to me. No, thank you. Right? They tried to do that with turmeric and neem, and we had an
yeah,
amazing advocate in India, Vandana Shiva, who fought for it. We all
right.
need to be like Vandana Shiva when it comes to it.
Yeah,
So I would say that is extremely important that we form a coalition. We all have to stand together and claim that right. We're doing that with Swastika, right? We're
right.
standing
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
Native Americans.
absolutely.
So we just need to do more of it, and that means
I
we need
agree.
more Hindu advocates.
That's right. That's right. So this was great conversation. I cannot thank you enough. Let me quickly run through three of these standard, standing things that we always do every week. One of them is a really unique thing, and this year, after 550 years, uh, Hindus were able to reclaim the birthplace of Sri Ram and build a mandir over there on January 22nd. There was a consecration or the Pran Pratishtha of the Murti, where the Murti acquires the prana of Ram Lala. Murti acquired the Pran Pratishtha at the birthplace of Sri Ram, which was destroyed and then taken away from Hindus for 550 years. Talk of appropriation. The entire one of the the entire uh, civilization of Bharat and many civilizations around the world, where you go to Thailand and you go to Cambodia and you go to Vietnam and you go to all these other countries, uh, is the foundational scripture. There is Ramayana, and you take away the birthplace of Sri Ram and you put a structure on top of it. Finally, Hindus were able to reclaim it, and 850 mandirs joined with VHPA in celebrating. So, as a part of as part of that celebration, and part of the Pran Pratishtha, we got some prasad from Ayodhya, and we are doing a yatra of visiting 8,000 miles over a period of 2 months, visiting every single mandir in America. And that was started a day before yesterday. In last 2 days, 16 mandirs have been covered. 8 other mandirs are on the list today. And so, if it's I just want to show this 30-second video, and then just see if anyone is interested, they can reach out to us. So this is the video, which just kind of introducing what the Pran Pratishtha is. So let me just share that here. Hopefully everything will work the way it is supposed to.
Namaste, Jai Shri Ram to all the Shri Ram Bhakt everywhere in the universe. And we are taking the VHPA Ram Rath on a 48 state yatra. And in the Rath, we have Ganesh ji with us, we have Ram Lala Pratikriti with us, or the replica, and Rama Parivar, of course. And there will be a Kalash here, which is on its way from New Jersey right now. We'll have the Pujit Akshat in there. And this is going everywhere in the US. We are covering all 48 states, 8,000 plus miles in USA, and about 8,000 plus miles in Canada also. There is another team. When we go to a temple and we arrive, we'll remove this from here and we'll take it with us inside the temple, and we will take with us the Kalash with Akshat in it. but this is what is going to visit all the temples in USA. Jai Shri Ram. Jai Shri Ram.
So
That's an amazing undertaking, Ajay. And if it when it comes to the West Coast, let me know. If I can, I'll catch it in California or in some other state.
I am going to be
Uh,
there. I'm going to travel with the Yatra all over California, Nevada, and Washington and Oregon. So hopefully, we'll join, hands over there. I'll when I'm in California, I'll let you know. So this is part of our segment where we say Hindu Seva Act of the Week. So we always, it's not limited to just our organization. If there's a good cause, we like to promote a good Hindu cause. So today we are promoting the Ram Yatra for a few weeks. We'll probably promote because it is an expensive endeavor, and whatever you can do to help, we'll appreciate it. The next standing segment for us is Hindu Good News of the Week. And Sudha, I know you've been doing religious and spiritual practices for a long time. This is a news item that came in Religious News Services. It says as Hindu wellness gains invest, chakra healing practitioners root their art in science. So this I picked because it's kind of bittersweet, right? On one hand, it is promoting chakra. On the other hand, they're trying to, it's slightly going towards appropriation, right? But it is still
yeah,
good news that people are starting to understand that it is the Hindu practices are also based in science. They're not just cooked up by people who are, snake charmers and, animal worshippers or whatever they call them, right?
yeah. So the good thing is that the word Hindu is in it. Okay, the headline.
Yeah,
The not so great thing is that, like you said, they're trying to now separate, right, the connection to the original roots, which is Hindu root itself, which is based on science.
right.
Anything we do, everything we do, has a scientific base to it. So I think these kinds of articles, some we need to rebut. We need people to write back and say, what do you mean that chakra is needs to be rerouted in science by Western practitioners? It is already rooted in science as part of being a Hindu practice. So we need to call these people out. But there is thousands and thousands of these articles. How do we stop it, right? And like I said, many times it is our own people. I don't know who wrote this one, but most of the time it is our own people who do this.
Yeah,
Our own meaning Hindu sounding names.
yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So I don't have the name of the author in front of me right now, but
Yeah.
this article is summarized on our website called hinduvishwa.org, hinduvishwa.org, and we post about 5 or 6 news items every day. It's a PHPA website, and we go all over all the news sources around the world, and we pick 5 or 6 articles every single day and we post them there. So if you want to keep up with the Hindu news, I would say please go to Hindu Vishwa website. It's also a printed magazine and all that. You'll see if you go to the website. Now, somebody asked about the Canada part of the Yatra. It is available on the VHP Canada website. The last segment, which is the fun segment every time, we pick on behalf of our sister project called American Hindus Against Defamation. We present Hindu Phobe of the Week. So, Sudha, there's a company in India called Zomato, and Zomato is like a food delivery, like DoorDash kind of company, right? And they launched this pure veg mode, where they say, okay, there's section of our customers who are vegetarians, and we'll deliver them. They are very pure vegetarian. That means they want just like people want halal food or kosher food or whatever way, these people want vegetarian food. They want it cooked in a certain way and delivered in a certain way. And people who follow kosher, for example, will or halal, they'll only eat in a certain kind of vessel. They will
Yeah.
not eat in other vessels. And so Hindus have also these food requirements. And this company, the minute it launched, a whole barrage of attack on this company, saying they're casteist and they're hierarchical and they want to why and so I mean, what kind of social media people? I call all these social media people Hindu phobes because a Hindu wants to eat a particular kind of food without getting chastised for eating the food they want to use? Would you go and stand outside the vegan restaurant in America? I just went to a vegan restaurant yesterday in New Jersey. And do you stand outside the restaurant and say, "Oh, you are, you're racist, casteist, whatever, 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 because you're eating vegan food"? What is wrong with this world? I mean, what do you think, Sudha? And you don't have
Yeah.
to say this. I mean, there are a lot of Hindus who are not vegetarian, and which is fine. But for people who want to have a certain kind of lifestyle, why is it a problem?
Yeah, it is a problem because it's Hindu and vegetarian are kind of sort of tied together. And so we kind of say in many of our conversations that when a Hindu is a vegetarian, that is casteist. But when my neighbor is a vegetarian, they are planet savers. They are saving the planet, right? So this shows a very discriminatory attitude to Hindus who are vegetarian. Why not? I would order in India from Zomato, pure vegetarian. Makes me feel that it's hopefully cooked in ways that it's a sattvic kind of
Right,
cooking. And it's not mixed with other kinds of preparations or even with oil that might have been used to fry certain things and being brought here. So, a lot of considerations going here. It's also a question of health and preference, dietary preference.
yeah,
Why is my dietary preference a problem for someone? You want to eat vegetarian? Okay, you have a choice. You want non-vegetarian? You have another choice. Go
choice.
live with it.
Yeah,
Live and let live, right?
I know. So Sudha, we are over time, but I'm
Content.
so glad
Yeah.
that we had so many people join us today. This is our one of our most well attended shows, and I think it's thanks to you joining the show. So I'm
Thank
looking
you
forward to
for
the next.
inviting me.
I'm looking. This was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the next show. We are still kind of in an experimental phase, so we don't have a date and all that, but we'll keep everyone updated on when it's going to be next. But thank you so much for joining, Sudha, and let's do it again.
Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram.
Om Namah
Thank you.
Shivaya.
And Namaskar. And this is Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is a show for American Hindus by American Hindus. It brings the American Hindu perspective to everyone. So thank you for joining and namaste.
Namaste.